Well, hey everyone, how are you doing? This is the online lobby. So if you are here by accident because you logged in too early, welcome. We're glad you're here. Or if you got here because you're like, I really need some Joe time, I apologize. This is Rich, I am not Joe. But we are so glad to have you, and I'm going to try and log in to say hi to everybody. But would love to talk to you a little bit about this lobby. So what is it if you are your first time here? So we know that watching online is an awesome thing. It's been an incredible tool during this time, but it does have a couple drawbacks. The ones that we would have been told about, one would be music. So we just know it's tough to kind of, when you're used to singing with the church and you're hearing all of that sound, you're just, it's an incredibly powerful feeling, knowing that you're in tune with those people, and you don't really quite get that with the online music. I mean, it's great, but it has its drawbacks. But the other side to it would be the lobby. You know, you come to church, you have the lobby, you come in, and you see people that you love, people that you're sharing life with, you talk to them, you give your hugs, things like that. We don't get that quite on the online side. So this is why we have this lobby. So I'm here live, loving to say hi to you. And if, let's see, I'm still trying to get these comments in here. I'm not nearly as smooth at this as Joe. So Joe is the man. And now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, the lobby is a great opportunity now for us to kind of communicate back and forth. I'm here live, kind of struggling the way through this, but there is a very much more professional person on each of our streaming platforms right now, ready to say hello, answer any questions you may have, give you the correct links if you're trying to connect with something, and get you on your way. So hopefully that will feel much more like a family, kind of like what Grace is used to. So yeah, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and throw those in the comments, and hopefully I can see them, but if I don't, there's someone in each of those lobbies that can help you out. So I'm just going to refresh these one more time, see what I can get. Oh, hello Nani on live stream. I think that's it. Great to have you. Thanks for commenting. And then let's see if I can get Facebook here. That would be great if I could get that figured out. But I'm going to continue on. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So like I said, I'm not Pastor Joe. My name is Pastor Rich. Actually, my name is just Rich, but I'm one of the pastors here at Grace. I'm the worship pastor. So I've been here just starting on my 7th month. So not been here too long. In fact, I feel like I've just barely started because I came right before the pandemic started. So it's been a really incredible ride. It's really been great to see and work with our Grace staff in a difficult time. It's just, I really feel privileged to be able to do that. But if you are saying, I don't even know who this guy is, I would love to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm originally from Southern California. I just moved here a couple of years ago. And so born and raised Southern California. So not really used to snow or temperatures above freezing or below freezing. So I'm married. My wife's name is Renee, and we have 2 kids. I have a 5-year-old little boy. His name's Reese. And I have a 1-year-old daughter, and her name is Ruby. So we are one of those weird families with all our names. But yeah, hopefully we can meet sometime in person. It'd be great to connect with you in any way possible. So what do I do? So I'm the worship pastor, and if you've been here a while, you know that Ezra has been here for a very long time. Ezra is actually one of our executive pastors. So I'm the worship pastor, so what does that mean? What do I do? Well, sometimes I play music on the weekends, but I'm lucky enough that I get to work with our incredible tech team, our incredible music team. There's about 150 to 200 of them. And we just love to be able to serve the church with creative arts, creative skills. So that'd be weekend services. That would also be funerals, weddings, special events that would happen at Grace. So lots of different areas that I get to be a part of. I know I'm one of the lucky few that gets to do what they love to do, and they're lucky enough to get a paycheck for it. So yeah. I would love to give you guys some information now. Sorry if you are commenting. I'm not quite sure how to get this going here, so I apologize. But I'm going to just keep going here, all right? So if you're saying to yourself, I would love to come to a service, but it's tough with kids. Like, I know it. Like, I've got 2 little ones at home. We've made some slight adjustments just in the last couple weeks. So if you have kids ages 4 through kindergarten, I would love to tell you, and I'm going to tell you, that they can now come to children's programming. So our Junior Power Kids is now open. So again, that's ages 4 through kindergarten. So they have programming now. So if that was what was holding you back, we would love to see you on a weekend. It'd be great. So at all of our services, at the Montrose location, at the Gent location, you now have child programming for 4 and up. So what does that look like? If you're new here and you're like, I have kids and they're sitting right next to me, or I would love to know more information, let me give that to you. So again, we talked about Junior Power Kids. That's going on now. If you've got a junior high age child, Overtime is that program, and that would be at the Montrose building on Sunday evening from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So again, that's at the Montrose building, Overtime, which is our junior high programming, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Also is Merge. So that would be on Wednesday, also at the Montrose building, and that would be from 7 to 9 p.m. So definitely check that out if you can. And then if you are a college age student, and you're like, man, college this fall has like, I'm staying home and this is killing me and I need to be with my peers, would love to invite you to Collective. So that will be Thursday, also at the Montrose building from 7 to 9. So that's an awesome group. I've been able to sit in on a couple of those and they are awesome. It's just great. So again, lots of different children's programming. If you would like to join one of those, or if maybe kids is what is maybe holding you back, letting you know we're slowly opening these things up. So great opportunities there. Also, last week was our move up week. So for example, if you had a 5th grader who was going into 6th grade, they would move up from the Power Kids to junior high. And I know that can be stressful for your junior higher, your new junior higher. It can also be stressful for mom and dad. And if you would like to know more information about that, tomorrow, which will be Sunday, the 9 and the 11 o'clock services at Gent, you have an opportunity to meet Pastor Todd and his ministry team. And they're going to have a question and answer time, kind of talk through what it looks like to be in the junior high ministry and what they can offer your junior higher, and just to see all what goes on there. So that is RSVP only. So if you would like to join that, go ahead and send a message to our moderators, and they would love to get you that information on how to sign up. Also, the amazing thing is they have a soda machine, which leads to my next question. How many of you would call that a soda machine? How many of you would call that a pop machine? So think about it. I'm going to try one last time, see if I can get these things going. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is it a pop machine? Is it a soda machine? I know that I am probably in the minority about thinking what it is, but I would believe that it is a soda machine. What do you guys think? If I can't even check, then we're just going to say it's a soda machine. So I know we're in Ohio, obviously, but in the 4:30 service, it was overwhelmingly pop machine. And I would lovingly say that soda is a drink and pop is a sound. So it's a soda machine. But that's just me, and I know that I'm not in the area that would agree with me. But at least we're not in the Southeast where they would call it Coke. And then you go to like a Chick-fil-A in Atlanta and they say, what do you want to drink? And you'll say, I'll have a Coke. And then they'll say, well, what kind of Coke do you want? And then they say, I'll have a Sprite. That just makes no sense to me at all. So even though pop makes no sense to me, calling it Coke as a broad term makes even less sense to me. So I can live with pop. I can't live if you're calling it Coke. All right. I don't know if anybody's commenting, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep on talking. So now that we're kind of on that pop versus soda, I'm going to ask a couple more questions of like, would you rather, or is it a this or is it a that, right? So what about this one? What would be more fear-inducing? Would it be a tornado or an earthquake? And again, we're doing this because this is the lobby. If you're just joining us, this is our online lobby. I'm thinking of questions that I would talk to somebody if I was sitting in the lobby and I was like, oh, hey, whoever, what is more scary, a tornado or an earthquake? I would say a tornado. I've gone through plenty of earthquakes growing up. And I think maybe the reason why is because you never know when an earthquake's going to happen. It's suddenly there. Whereas living out here in Ohio, you have an entire room, the basement, like basically dedicated to where you need to go if you hear those sirens. So I would be more afraid of a tornado, but I might understand why some of you might say earthquake as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts? As you discuss, I'm going to try one more time. Facebook is not my friend right now. It's not letting me see your comments. Just want to see those comments. So yeah, that's another question I have. And while you think about that, if you're joining us maybe for the first time, we're in a series right now called Stops Along the Way. This has been a fascinating series. It's talking about Jesus' stops with his disciples. And it's been incredible to just hear these different stories, talking about Sabbath, talking about Peter and some of his times where he probably put his foot in his mouth. But I've also been listening to this series while watching a series called The Chosen. I don't know if you guys have watched that, but it's really been incredible. If you don't know anything about it, it's a series about Jesus kind of picking the disciples, and it starts with kind of just the first year or so of his ministry. And it's been great to do both of those together, because I think it helps me when I hear our conversations, but also when I take those conversations, I watch some of those episodes, it makes me think like, man, it really must have been hard for some of these disciples. They're hearing Jesus talk the way that he talked. They didn't quite get it, and they're kind of like face to face with God, and they're just blown away by it. What an incredible thing. So if you haven't seen it, I actually have not finished it yet, but I think I'm on like episode 7. But if you haven't watched The Chosen, it's actually free. I downloaded it like on an app, and then I just kind of streamed it to my TV. But yeah, it's free right now. So if you've been really intrigued by these conversations, stops along the way, and that's something that might interest you, The Chosen. It's a pretty cool show. Yeah, don't know if anyone's conversing. If you are, hopefully those moderators have been able to answer any questions. Maybe they're tallying what the pop versus soda tally is. I'm pretty sure that no matter what it is, I'm losing, but that's okay. I have one more question of the if this or that. All right, so what would be your favorite season in Ohio? Again, I'm pretty new here. I haven't experienced too many winters, falls, springs. Where I come from, it's really just like summer, maybe a little bit of fall, maybe a little bit of spring, and then just right back to summer again for 9 months. But does anybody love winter? I don't know if I've found anybody that just said winter's my favorite season by far. Maybe the people that go to Florida for the winter, and they're like, yeah, I love that you guys have to struggle with winter. But yeah, so we're gonna get started in just a minute. Again, if you're just joining us, really want to say hello. And this is our live lobby, and this is right before we're continuing our conversation with Pastor Jeff called Stops Along the Way. I was able to listen to this service at our 4:31, and it's an incredible message. So you're definitely here for an incredible message. If you have any questions while you're watching, use those dialog boxes to ask questions, and someone will be there that will be able to answer or at least get you the information that you need as you move along. So that's a great tool throughout the entire message. If you're like, what was that song that they're singing? I'd love to know. Ask away. If you're like, what was that passage that Pastor Jeff was talking about? Shoot that question. Someone will be able to help you out there. We'll invite you to download the app. There's lots of different things, tools that can help you as you watch today. I would love to have you connect in that way. Well, I think we're about ready to begin. So I hope you have a great service, and I will actually be right here at the end of the service just to kind of wrap us up. So have a great service. I'll see you here real soon.
Well, hey everyone, it is so good to be with you. My name is Pastor Joe. I get to serve here at Grace, and I'm happy to welcome you to our weekend services. I want to make sure that you have everything that you need to make sure that you have a wonderful experience together as the church. Whether you're watching here from the Akron area or far beyond your living room, maybe in your headset as you're walking around, wherever it might be, we're glad that you can be with us. The first thing we'd love for you to do is go ahead and click share. Let your friends and family know what you're up to, why you're engaging Grace right now, and what they could experience if they jump into the family here as well. Second thing, you're going to want to open up or download our app, search Grace Ohio in your app store, and you'll see lots of resources there to get connected, whether it's in person or virtually. And of course, there's also a feature called the connection card. It's a way to reach out to our leadership, ask for prayer, or take next steps, whatever it might be. But especially in this time where we can feel kind of isolated from people, make sure you use that functionality. We would love to help you as you personally grow in your relationship with God, take whatever steps that you might need or to be praying for you. And of course, we can always be a part of the family as well in a very tangible way by being a part of the giving community. As we continue to do ministries amongst the families of our church, help people understand who Jesus is, reach out into our communities and beyond all around the world. Being a part of our financial family is a way for you to experience being a part of that. It's a way for us to express the same generosity that God gives to us, the same provision that God gives to us, and worship Him through that mechanism. And so our treasure follows our heart and vice versa. That's what Jesus tells us. Treasure and heart is together. And so it's a part of our discipleship that we get to do that. Go ahead and text the number on the screen. Join our GraceLink community online. You'll see all the instructions there. But it would be great as we continue to do that together as well. Now, this has been a fantastic summer. Lots of great things have happened. Wonderful life changes happen. Some exciting things. We want you to be able to see it so that you can thank God for what He's doing and also be praying about being a part of it. Let's check out this update.
Hey guys, this is Donnie Varney, sports pastor here at Grace Church, and I wanted to take a minute and really celebrate with you the incredible summer we have had with sports camps. This has for sure been the most challenging summer we've had with sports camps, but I can honestly say that it's been by far the most rewarding. We've had 4 weeks of sports camps. We've had basketball and soccer and baseball and Ninja Warrior, and we've had over 600 kids who participated in these sports camps. And as you can imagine, there's been all sorts of different changes that we've had to make along the way. And it's been so encouraging to see the team effort that has taken place with all of the parents and the kids and the volunteers who have really rolled with all of these changes. And the ones that I really wanted to highlight with you guys that I believe has been the highlight of the summer is our 360 interns and our counselors. They have done a phenomenal job going above and beyond with their investment in kids and in students.
My favorite part about serving in 360 has been the interaction with kids and just the ability to get to know them throughout the week. You get so many different types of kids coming in with different backgrounds, different families, and you get the privilege of being able to be with them and love on them in the way that Jesus would want you to love them.
Like getting to invest in their lives as other people did to me. I think that's really cool. It's like you're kind of passing the torch, you know?
So it's been so cool to see these 360 interns interacting with all of our child athletes. One of the things that was kind of unexpected that really turned out for the positive with the changes that we made is that when we went from a full day camp to a half-day camp, it actually allowed for more one-on-one time with the 360 interns and these kids. And I think God blessed that in really surprising ways as we saw As of now, it's Thursday of our last week of camp. 35 kids have come to know Christ as a result of sports camps, and we don't know for sure what that final number will be, but we're super excited to let you know that. So thank you so much for your prayers and your encouragement and your faithful giving to things like sports camps. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you so much.
As you lay down your life, you took up the sinner's cross, and your life rescued mine. In this redemption, love and mercy displayed, you lifted my eyes to see that your truth never fails. Lord of the heavens, King of all days, without you my world slips away. Redeemed by your mercy, consumed by your grace. Now I live for you. I'm found in the arms of love. Your love is saved my soul. I'll run to your arms of love. Your light's gonna lead me home. Glorious Savior, in your light I am free. The things of this world will fade, still you're all that I need. Yes, you are, Lord of the heavens, King of all days. Without you, my world slips away. Redeemed by your mercy, consumed by your grace. Now I live for you. I'm found in the arms of love. Your love is saved my soul. I'll run to your arms of love. Your light's gonna lead me home. I'm found in the arms of love. Your love is saved my soul. I'll run to your arms of love. Your light's gonna lead me home. At your cross, I lay my burden. At your feet, where your love covers all I've done. Now I walk with you.
Wherever you are, would you sing this? Would you pray this? Just lay down your burdens.
At your cross, I lay my burdens. At your feet, where your love covers all I've done. Now I walk with you, Lord. At your cross, I lay my
Well, welcome to Grace. Thanks for joining us online. It's good to see you. And thanks again for taking the time to be a part of these conversations. We've been in a series that we're going to keep thinking ahead with called Stops Along the Way. And the conversation that we've been having here over the course of this series is a conversation about what it means to follow Jesus, and also kind of how we get our head and our heart around who Jesus is and who he's called us to be. We're watching the disciples do this, right? So especially those 12, we're watching them kind of get exposed to new aspects of how Jesus thinks, how he would process something, what it means to be a part of what he calls the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven. And we're watching them kind of soak that up. And as they stop along the way, they see something, Jesus says something, he leans into something. And we're watching this kind of like dawn on them. The lights come on a little bit. And we know that the end outcome is they give their lives fully to know and to understand him. So we want to take that same journey. So if you're kind of jumping into the middle of this, there's podcasts, there's other episodes here on the web, there's things there on the app. Just catch all that. It may color in that picture of who Jesus is for you. And maybe you want to help somebody else do that too. This is a great time to share that we're talking together here, share that the messages are on, or maybe send these conversations to friends and family, others who have these same kind of questions about who Jesus is and what he's like. What I want to do in this conversation is I want to look at a pattern. And so I'm going to Bible nerd on you a little bit. So if you don't have a Bible with you, this may be a great time to pause and go grab one real quick, right? So get a Bible or use things there on the app on your phone, or even just look it up on the internet. But I'd love for you to kind of follow along, because we're going to see something that Jesus does. And what we're going to see him do is we're going to see him really drive something home to his disciples, okay? So let's kind of catch up to where we're at a little bit. Jesus and his disciples kind of hung out together for about 3 years. That was the window of Jesus's public ministry. The first year and a half, a lot of this is just him introducing them to things like his deity. So he'll do miracles, he'll cast demons out, things like that. He's also introducing them to his heart. You see the compassion, the mercy of Jesus, that kind of stuff. We're about halfway through their interaction with each other chronologically, about 18-ish months in or so. And what Jesus starts to do now is lean into the cost of discipleship. He really starts to look at his disciples, and he basically is saying, guys, this is what it means to follow me. And the plan is not just that things are awesome and everybody's happy and all of your dreams come true. There's this bigger plan at place. There's the plan of God, the purpose of God, and that's in place, and that's actually what I'm here to execute on. And he basically starts to ask the question, are you here to do that with me? Is that what you're thinking? Are you thinking in the same way that I'm thinking, or have you brought your preloaded definitions with you so that you're kind of making me who you want me to be? Jesus is going to start to lean into this really, really hard. And you're going to see him press this point. He's going to look at them and he's going to say, I'm here to do this. And if you actually want to be my follower, this is what that means. This is the definition of what following me means. So I want you to see this, and we're going to work through a couple chapters of scripture. Like I said, we're going to kind of Bible nerd here a little bit in this conversation, but you'll see that this pattern jumps out really, really clearly, and then we'll talk about what that means to you and me. So we're going to pick up where we left off last time. Last time we talked, we were in Matthew chapter 16, and Jesus does something fascinating in Matthew chapter 16. Kind of for the first time, he predicts, or he tells his disciples that he's going to die. He's not just going to take over the government and rule and reign and make them like his cronies, but he's going to go to Jerusalem and he's going to offer his life. This is the way he says it. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests, and teachers of the law, and that he must be killed on the third day and raised to life. So he's introducing this idea to them that this is the plan of God, that we're going to Jerusalem, not to take over the government, not to straighten everybody out, not to drain the swamp, but I'm going to go there. I'm going to suffer. I'm going to die. It's going to lead to my resurrection. That's the plan. Now, he lays this out, and then right after that, he looks at his disciples, and he basically says, if you want to be my disciple, you got to be in on this plan, because this is the plan. If you're following me, this is where I'm going. So he says this. He begins to introduce the idea that you must deny self. This is not what can I do for you. This is you following me. So you got to deny self. He says it this way. Then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. And so we looked at this a lot in our last conversation. And Jesus, he's, like I said, he's about halfway through that 3-year period, and he's laying this out for his disciples. And he's saying, fellas, the plan is not me being a rock star. The plan is not me running for president. The plan is not me being Santa Claus and making everybody's dreams come true. I have come to give my life. I'm going to suffer. I'm going to die. And if you want to be my disciple, then that's kind of what you do too. If you want to be like me, that's what I'm doing. So if you want to be like me, you deny yourself, you take up your cross, you follow me, you lose your life. And he lays that idea out for kind of the first time in Scripture. Now, that's the first time he does it. Chronologically, then, in the Bible, we would move to Mark chapter 9. So think of the first instance of Jesus doing that. I'm going to give my life. You're going to have to deny yourself. The second time that he does that, it's kind of like a few days later, a week later, right? He does it again. The second time in Mark chapter 9, he predicts his death again. He says, this is what I'm going to do. This time he says it this way. He said to them, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days, he will rise. So he basically says the exact same thing he said in Matthew chapter 16. He says it again, guys, I am going to suffer, and I am going to die. And right after he says this, he again says, you've got to deny yourself. He says it a second time. He says it this way. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, anybody who wants to be first must be the very last and the very servant of all. So he says it a second time. I'm going to go. I'm going to lay my life down. And if you want to be my follower, you want to be my disciple, then you're going to lay your life down like I lay my life down. You're going to deny yourself. First shall be last shall be first, and you're going to be the servant to all. Now catch this. A third time Jesus comes in Mark chapter 10, verse 21, and he says, again, he repeats himself again, so to say. He says, guys, if you want to be my disciple, you must deny yourself. He says it this way, this time. He says, but many who are first will be last, and the last will be first. He's looking again, and he's saying, I want you to get your head around this, because they're wrestling with it, right? It's a foreign concept. I want you to get your head around this. You must deny yourself. So twice, I'm going to lay my life down. 3 times now, you must deny yourself. Ready? A third time, he talks about his death again. This is a pattern. Another time, a third time, he says it this way. Again, he took the 12 aside and told them what was going to happen to him. We're going to go to Jerusalem, he said, and Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death. Will hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him and spit on him, flog him and kill him, and 3 days later he will rise. So 3 times, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay my life down. 3 times, if you want to be my disciple, this is what you do. You lay your life down. Ready? Then a 4th time, he leans into this whole idea. Mark chapter 10, verse 43, he says again to his disciples, you have to be willing to deny yourself. He says, not so with you. It's not about who's first, who's last, who's getting the most perks. That's not the way that my followers think. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave to all. And then a 4th time, he predicts or talks about his death. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many, right? Now, I'm no genius, but this is a pattern, and all of this happens within 2 chapters of the scripture. So at this point in his relationship with the disciples, he's walking his disciples through. They're getting their head around him first 18 months. They hit this pivot point, and Jesus almost presses pause and says, guys, listen, you have got to understand this. I am going to lay my life down. I am going to suffer and die. All those other ideas that you have about what you thought I was going to do or what I should do or what you hoped I would do, just put them out of your mind. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. 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 And if you want to be my disciple, what my disciples do is deny themselves, deny themselves, deny themselves, deny themselves. I'm going to give my life, I'm going to give my life, I'm going to give my life, I'm going to give my life. You're going to give your life, you're going to give your life, you're going to give your life, you're going to give your life. I deny myself, deny myself, deny myself, deny myself. My followers act like me. They deny themselves, they deny themselves, they deny themselves, they deny themselves. And Jesus has leaned in and pressed this point deeply into the heart and into the mind of his disciples, right? Now, why? Why? Because he's not mad, right? He's not mad. He's not like, I told you, you gotta know. That's not what's going on here. He is pushing this truth into their heart because he knows that this truth is foreign. The idea that I exist for God, God doesn't exist for me, and that God's power and God's deity and God's might is being used to accomplish his eternal purposes, not my earthly purposes, is a foreign concept to me. Because as a human being, my world starts with me and goes out. And Jesus is looking and saying, not so with you. If you are my disciple, then your world starts with me and goes out. You empty yourself. You deny yourself. Instead of first, you're last. You're a servant to all. You're a slave to all. You lay your life down. I didn't come to be served, but to serve. I didn't come to glean and gain life, but to give my life as a ransom for many. If you want to be like me, this is the way that functions and what that looks like. And Jesus knew that for his disciples to truly understand his heart and his mind, that they had to unplug every idea that they had about self. They had to put away or put to death or deny every idea that they have about self-promotion, self-gratification, self-determination, self-fulfillment, self-actualization, self-interest, personal authority, personal gain. He knew that this idea that I die to myself, I put myself aside, was such a foreign idea to a human being that he had to drill it and drill it and drill it and drill it and drill it to get it to take hold. There are very, very few ideas that Jesus introduces that are more radical than this. That my calling, that my relationship with God is not built on what God can do for me, but it's built on God's empowerment of me to empty myself of myself. That perhaps the most powerful thing God does in my life is help me get over myself. For me as a human being, Jeff included, obviously, for me as a human being, to not be infatuated with myself is impossible outside of supernatural intervention on Jesus' behalf. Because it's the very nature of who I am that I will put my self-interest above the interests of others, that I will trust myself, I will trust my own truth, I will trust my own opinion, that I will serve myself, that I will promote myself, that I will pursue my hopes, dreams, desires, and goals above all else. And Jesus would come in and say, listen, here's a very, very radical teaching for you. I am God. I am God who is the only one worthy to be the center of his own universe. And I'm not choosing to do that. I am choosing to deny myself, to suffer, to die, to give my life as a ransom for many, to be persecuted and tormented and mocked at the hands of my own creation. That is my heart and my mind. If you want to see the clearest picture of Jesus' heart and mind, look to the cross. It's Jesus kind of in his purest form, so to say. And he ties that concept to his disciples and says, listen, if you want to be like me, you're going to look like that. The denial of yourself is what causes you to reflect me. You're acting and talking and thinking and loving and being motivated the most closely to me when you deny yourself in the manner that I did. This path of self-denial has really become foreign in our culture. Not only is it kind of against our human instinct, it's very much against our cultural instinct. This idea that I would set aside my desires, my hopes, my dreams, my opinion, my interests, that I would not try to be the best me that I could be, that I wouldn't just, you do you. That idea that I would put all that aside and lay my life down and be a servant or a slave to all is a very, very foreign idea in our culture. You're not going to find that taught anywhere, right? You're not going to find that taught in school. You're not going to read books about that. There's not a lot of things that you can Google, 5 points to denying oneself. That's not going to show up anywhere in our culture, and it's not going to show up in our natural instinct. But Jesus would say that is what a true follower of his seeks to become. And the truth of the matter is this: if I am unwilling to deny myself, then I'm going to be unable to live the life that Christ calls me to live. I can live the life I want to live. I can live the life that would kind of function cleanly and neatly in my culture, but I'll be unable to live the life that Christ calls me to live. Self-denial is the fundamental key and the trigger for all forms of godly success. If I want to have godly success in any way, then I have to be willing to deny myself. Why? Because self-denial is the foundation of love. If I'm not willing to deny myself, then I'm going to be unable to love God and my neighbor. It's impossible. I have to die to myself in order to truly love someone else. So the Bible would say, for instance, that love is patient. I cannot be patient while I'm clamoring for control. Can't do it. The only way for me to be patient is to deny myself, my hopes, my dreams, my expectations, my rights, my control. Unless I deny myself, I can't even embrace the concept of patience. See, the Bible would say things like love is driven by things like forgiveness. I cannot forgive you if I will not deny myself. My instinct is going to be to even a score. You do this to me, I do this to you, now we're even. Well, that's not the concept of forgiveness at all. That's the concept of retaliation or restitution. Forgiveness is rooted in this idea that I am giving to you something that I have to give to you. You've hurt me, you wounded me, you've done whatever. You cannot make that whole. Even if you wanted to, you cannot make that whole. So I want to forgive you. I want to release you of that. I cannot do that unless I have chosen to deny myself. Even concepts like contentment. Contentment, the key to contentment is actually self-denial. I cannot be content unless I've decided that I'm going to be fulfilled and happy with things I don't have that I want. See? Unless I say no to my wants, even my needs and desires, I can never have that contentment. It is the key, it is the root of all that. My worship of God, I can't worship God unless I deny self, because my instinct is to worship self. Generosity, I cannot be generous in the spiritual definition of the word without self-denial. Because I can, if I'm generous in the worldly sense of it, I give something, you put my name on the building, and I'm not really generous, I just bought myself a monument. I bought myself a tax deduction. See? Biblical generosity is that nobody even knows what I'm doing. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. I'm just moving God's resources through me into someone else for the purposes of God's kingdom. I cannot do that if I will not deny myself. Jesus looks at his disciples and he says to them, listen, guys, you cannot come to me with a pre-described definition of who I am, asking me to do everything that you want me to do, being upset with me if I don't do it, and consider yourself to be my disciple. I am going to do this. I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it 4 times. For you to participate in what I'm doing and to even reap the benefit or the life change that would come from it, you have to deny yourself, deny yourself, deny yourself, deny yourself. And as you die to yourself, you come alive in me. As you put other people's interests above your own, as you live at peace with all men, as you love your enemies, right? As you love your neighbor as yourself, as you die to self, then the power and the wonder and the completeness of what I was doing and what I did on the cross will start to play out. The power of the resurrection, is how Paul says it, will start to play out in your life. But if you look at the power of the resurrection and say, that's a power that I want to self-benefit me. Man, Jesus is really God. That's great. Look, he rose again from the dead. If he can resurrect himself, then he can do this for me and that for me and the other thing for me. And Jesus would look and say, no, if he is willing to die to himself, then as his followers, I am willing to follow in his example of love, mercy, grace, sacrifice, and self-denial. See? It's a powerful and a radical and a foreign teaching that Jesus knows his disciples are going to struggle with. Now, I want to put some kind of handles on this for you because I think we wrestle with this. I think sometimes when we think about self-denial, we think about like vows of poverty, and we think about living in a monastery somewhere and things like that. And that's not what Jesus is necessarily driving at. What he's looking at us is saying, listen, my disciples are something different. And because you're something different, the ways of the world, the values of the world, the prospects of the world, the functions of the world are not the things that define you. And many times what we're trying to do, what we're tempted to do in our humanity is we're tempted to bring Jesus' deity into our humanity to elevate our humanity. Where Jesus would look and say, why don't you take my deity and use the power of my deity for you to become something completely different, right? So how would this play out in real life? Let me give you an example of this. Lack of self-denial is the foundation of all conflict, okay? So I have an opinion, I have a will, I have a desire, I have a truth. You have an opinion, you have a will, you have a desire, you have a truth. My opinion, will, truth conflicts with yours. And when those two things conflict, all it becomes is a tension. We're just going to bounce off of each other. This is what happens in our world today. I think this, I think this. Well, I believe it's this way, my truth is this. Well, I'm mad at her about this, she's mad at me about this. My roommate's upset about this, well, I think this. See? And so I have me, and when me and me collide, all there is conflict. There's no change, there's no advancement, there's no healing, there's no forgiveness, there's no cultivation of wisdom, nothing like that. There's just tension and conflict. And this tension and conflict just clangs together. It's just what it does. It just clangs. And this sounds a lot like our world right now. This sounds a lot like maybe your relationship with your mom and dad right now. This is your relationship with your roommate right now. This is your relationship in your marriage right now. This is what that sounds like in your heart. I want, let's fight it out. Jesus looks and says, if you're wanting to bring me into you, what you're going to wind up is with this, with Bible verses attached. Well, God said, God told me, God showed me, I had a vision. I think God says, I think. If you try to bring me into a version of you, you just wind up with this, with Bible verses attached. Jesus would look and say, I'm not trying to transform this. I'm not trying to make you a stronger hammer. I'm not trying to make you a clearer hammer. I'm not trying to give you a social media platform so you can be the hammer with the most coverage. I'm not here to transform this. And I'm not here to strike this down, because that's the idea. God, we have this, we want this. Make us so big that we can crush this one, smite them, strike them, do something, move them to Michigan. Do something, God. Jesus would say, what I'm showing you is that they are this, and you are something completely different and new, right? They're a hammer made of steel, and you are something like water. Imagine that there's a bucket of water in front of me, right? If I take this hammer and I hit that water, the water doesn't even care that I hit it. Let's imagine that we're standing beside a river that's flowing. And I take the hammer and I hit that river as hard as I could possibly hit that river. That river doesn't care. Why? Because that river isn't a hammer. It's not built to react to me. It's something new, something completely different. You can hit a river with a hammer as hard and as many times as you want, and that river will just absorb that blow. It'll flow around that blow. It'll ignore that blow. And if you're not careful, you'll finally just wear out and drop your hammer, and it'll just be absorbed into the river. Jesus didn't come to change us or to make us stronger, make our arguments clearer. And that's what the disciples were asking. They're like, Jesus, you're going to knock out the Romans, you're going to knock out the Jewish leaders, you're going to make... Jesus would look and say, no, I'm going to die, and I'm going to raise to life again. You deny yourself, follow me. Because what this hammer does to this river, what this hammer does to the church, what this hammer does to a believer, what this hammer does to me is inconsequential. What do I care? I'm not motivated by that. The first shall be last. The hammer doesn't even understand that concept. You're going to be enslaved to all men, a servant to all. The hammer doesn't even understand that concept. I came not to be served, but to serve. The hammer doesn't even know what you're talking about. I am something different. See? How do you bring about peace in your marriage? Well, one of you has to act like a river. You deny yourself. How do you bring about peace in your relationship with your mom and dad? Well, you deny it. Instead of I can't believe, and I'm going to, you deny it. One of you's a river. You don't engage in the conflict in the first place. That's not the rules by which we function. See? And this concept, when you're born and raised a hammer, for Jesus to look at his disciples and say, guys, everything you've ever known is the hammer. I'm not a hammer. Because when you're a hammer, you think other people are hammers is what you're used to. I'm not that at all. I'm something completely different. And the math on this is going to be completely different. And the outcome is going to be completely different. And the approach is completely different. And if you want to be like me, because I'm not going to be like you, then you act like, talk like, think like, love like, be motivated like me. Well, I function as a river, not a hammer. So your path to that is to deny yourself. Well, I want patience, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness. I want all that. Okay. None of that works unless you deny yourself. Well, I want true love and a Christ-centered marriage, and none of that works unless you deny yourself. I want an inner happiness and a deeper success. All right, all that actually starts with denying yourself. I want to be the best friend that I can possibly be. That's just okay. Well, that's wonderful. You have to deny yourself. You have to be willing to be something different. See? And every time that you take hold of your rights and you take control of who you are, you become something that's not me. Fellas, disciples, listen, I'm going to suffer and die. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be mocked. I'm going to be spat upon. I'm going to be beaten. And I'm going to bleed out on the cross. That's what I'm going to do. All right? That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to raise again in 3 days because I'm not a hammer. There's a whole different set of rules that apply to me. And if you want to be like me, if you want to be like me, not me like you like me, deny yourself. Pick up your cross, lose your life, and come and follow me. Jesus, would you help us with this? Lord, I'm convinced it's one of the hardest truths that we encounter in Scripture. It does not make sense. It's backwards to all of our instincts. Would you in these still moments show us places in our lives, Lord, where we do not deny ourselves, we elevate ourselves, we fight for our position. And God, through your Holy Spirit, would you bring about an awareness, an understanding of humility? Would you let us kind of emblaze in us an image of you on the cross and how you laid your life down and what you gave your life for? Make us into something different, God. Use us in a different way, Jesus. In your name, amen.
Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Come on, let's all sing. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is amazing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us this weekend. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.
Man, what an awesome service. I love that example that Jeff had with the two hammers. And you know, you can be a hammer and the other person can be a hammer, and you're not going to get much from them because they're going to hit each other. And you can even say, I'm going to change to another hammer, but the result's going to be the same. They're still just going to hit each other. And that example of water, just as that hammer, I mean, you can imagine it, just as that hammer goes down and the water just displaces, but it doesn't leave. It just kind of just covers it. Man, what an example for us to be like. Well, I hope this was an incredible service for you. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have any questions at all, now is a great time to just write that in the message on any of the ways that you're watching. Someone will be right there ready to answer any of your questions. Well, we'd love to see you in person over these coming weeks, but if that's still not the right time, you always have this online platform to watch every single week. Have a great week. We'll see you real soon.